Great Scott. Great Scott. Great Scott.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of Great Scott. I just wanted to say a few more words about the Nolan Batman trilogy, only because I continue to get barraged with comments like, "Hey, you're an idiot!" or "You should stop attacking the Batman franchise by Nolan," or "You're a troll," or "You're not allowed to post things on your own page." This is me being facetious. I actually am not looking to turn anybody off. I'm not looking to upset anyone. If you are a big fan of the Nolan franchise, and it seems to me that a giant portion of the United States and of the world is, they've done great numbers. They've been very popular. They've gotten critical acclaim. They've won awards. I'm clearly the one on the outside. So, obviously, I'm wrong. They're fantastic films. From lots of people's point of view, and I have no problem with that. The honest truth is, I wanted to go in and love these films. I loved the first Tim Burton Batman. I loved things about Batman Begins. I like the idea. I like the premise. Just like I like Smallville for its premise, the beginning of Superman. Batman Begins was supposed to be the beginning of Batman. Neither, in my opinion, franchise came to fruition. Neither did what it had so much promise to do. I think with Smallville, it was that the writing was so off-centered all the time, and it was so out of left field, and characters were doing things that they should never do. They were acting out of character continuously, and they also forgot their own internal continuity again and again and again. Clark was responsible for deaths. He had a hand in deaths. He facilitated deaths, and he didn't seem to care about it. He was responsible for the death of his own father, and where they showed him bothered by that, it bothered me that they allowed that to happen on the show and showed it from that point of view. They also tried to make it seem as though Lex Luthor's fall from goodness was because of Clark, and it was Clark's fault. Not only was he raised by a father that didn't love him in the way that most children are loved by their parents, but also it was somehow Clark's fault through some of the machinations that went on between the two of them. And while interesting from another character standpoint, if this is a show about Clark Kent and about Superman, how many times do we continuously have to paint Clark in a bad light in order to, by the end of the show, go, oh, see, now he's a hero? And a lot of it, then I used to think, well, so he's a hero by default because he feels guilty about all the terrible things he's done. And I didn't just make that up. They actually put that point across, and Clark would say things like that, and oh, because he was in the meteor shower and because so many people died, now he has to help. And that was never Superman's impetus for becoming a superhero. I bring all this up because I'm not biased toward Nolan Batman films or Donner Superman films. I can see flaws in everything, and I'm not a big fan of the Donner Superman films either. I loved them as a kid. They were a big part of my life, and I still like them for what they are, but for my money, we still haven't seen the definitive Superman movie, and I hope this Nolan-produced, Snyder-directed, and Goyer-written Man of Steel is it. And I think, by the looks of the Batman films, by the seriousness of the Batman films, we have the opportunity, the possibility here with Snyder directing, who tends to, in my view, have a little bit more fun in his films. I didn't see Sucker Punch. I heard it was horrendous. I saw 300. I liked it. I saw Watchmen. I really liked it. I haven't loved anything. I've heard he's a terrible director. He's bad. A lot of fanboys and things saying bad things about him. And a lot of people, my brother included, Nolan should be in charge of every superhero movie from DC from now on. And I couldn't disagree more, only because even if you love the Nolan franchise, it is very, very dark. It is very, very depressing. It paints Batman as a very dark character, a guy who, by the end, has given up and has decided that he would rather go risk his life on a suicide mission, as Alfred explains to him, than he would try to retrain or just start being productive in regular life again if he's decided to give up Batman. And a lot of Batman fans I've talked to are just bothered because he decided to give up being Batman. I like the realism in that. Think of an Olympic athlete, or think of Mario Lemieux, or Mark Messier, or any Jordan, anybody at the top of their athletic game, better than anybody else. That's who Batman is. He's a guy who's learned everything he can learn about martial arts. He can beat anybody in a fight. He can beat numbers of people in a fight at one time. But in the comics, they never go past a certain age, so we never see. There is Batman Beyond, where he's walking with a cane. So there was some of that in this movie. It was in The Dark Knight Rises. It harkened to that, and I liked that because I'm familiar with Batman Beyond, and I'm familiar with Bruce Wayne training a protege to be the new Batman, and him being old and being unable to do it himself anymore, which makes sense if you're a human being. The only problem is, from every other aspect, everything that Batman ever does in movies, comics, and a lot of these cartoons, he's not, even though he is a human being, he does things that no other human being could ever do. Even Michael Jordan, even Wayne Gretzky, even Mark Messier and Lemieux and things. These are great athletes. And normally when you get to 28, 30 years old, 32, Mark Messier went into his 40s, you start to realize you can't keep up anymore. Everything hurts. You're in terrible shape. Your body's breaking down, and that's what happened with Batman. And I thought that was interesting. What I didn't like, and what a lot of Batman fans that I have talked to didn't like, is that he kind of gave up from an emotional standpoint and was willing to go on a suicide mission, which a lot of people I've talked to feel like Batman would never and should never do. I've talked many times about the Ra's al Ghul thing in the first Batman, The Batman Begins, that I'm not going to kill you, but I don't have to save you either. And I've talked to many people who are Batman fans that say, yes, you do have to save him. You're Batman. And in the beginning, I've had arguments, well, Batman was a killer, Batman used guns, Batman this and that. The point is, the character has evolved, and the modern Batman, for the longest time, is not a killer, does not use guns. In fact, he is heavily against guns, and they showed that in the third Batman movie, Dark Knight Rises, so that's good. But as far as once I'm finished beating on you, you have my permission to die, is not a line that should be said by Batman. Wolverine, but not by Batman. And just like Clark on Smallville, he should not be allowing people to die. He should not be happy about it when his enemies die, and many times he is. There were also times where they showed Clark try to save people. I think my biggest issue, and I'm going to try to stay quiet about this from now on, because I know that some people who like me and are fans of mine are having a problem because they're really passionate about these Nolan Batman films, is that they lack heart, for me. The trilogy as a whole, each film by itself, I don't find that there's a lot of heart. And one thing I thought Smallville had was heart. I thought that it had a center that they were going for. It's just the writing suffered, and it wasn't a good show. But it didn't lack heart in a lot of ways. When I watch The Amazing Spider-Man, as angry as people are that they rebooted that franchise already, I find a lot of heart. I find a lot of emotion. I find a lot of realistic type people in a fantasy setting with front porches and aunts and uncles and parents that they love and emotions in their lives, as opposed to just kind of everybody being the same. Everybody's dark. Everybody knows the world is terrible. Everybody's shutting their door on everybody else, and nobody wants to get involved. And everybody's just kind of typical cliched type characters. I think that might be what they suffered for me. But it's okay if you like them, and it's okay if I don't. But I just wanted to kind of cover that one last time. After all, this is a Superman broadcast. I love both these characters, Superman obviously being my favorite, and I think that Man of Steel has a good chance. If it doesn't get too dark, and it doesn't get too dreary, and it doesn't get too non-emotional, non-heart-filled. Superman's full of heart, and I think that we need to see that. Thanks everybody for watching. Remember, look up in the sky once in a while.